Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. This is my match reaction to Fulham's 3-0 loss to Brentford. It is entitled 5 Takeaways from Fulham's 3-0 loss to Brentford. So in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'll be going through my thoughts on this loss. It has been a few days since the match. I'm recording this on Tuesday. My schedule did not allow me to do it anytime sooner. I'm actually kind of glad because I've been able to calm down a little bit since this terrible loss for Fulham Football Club. And I'm going to give you 5 things I'm taking out of it in the next 15 minutes. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. I do want to mention you will be seeing a lot of promotion of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Cottage Talk is part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. I'm proud to be part of this wonderful network with so many great podcasts that are run by fans. I'm a fan. The co-hosts of this show are supporters just like myself. It's really great to be part of it. Please check out the other podcasts that are part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Before I get going, I also want to mention that I will be sharing an interview that I will be recording on Wednesday on September the 1st. It is with a former Fulham player from the 80s. I would highly recommend once I release that on September 1st, checking that out. That should be a very interesting interview that I'm going to be doing. Look forward to bringing that to you in a few weeks' time. All right, let's get to it. Let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about this 3-0 loss. It was a very bad loss for Fulham, especially being against Brentford. I hate losing to Brentford. I know so many Fulham supporters hate losing to Brentford. It makes it even worse when you see who the opponent is. So let's just start there. Just very disappointed by this loss, but there are reasons for it. Fulham weren't good enough, and I'll share my thoughts of that in just a bit, and there are other factors as well. So let's start with number 5, because I actually think this is a factor in all this. This is just my opinion. Number 5 takeaway. The Mitro situation could have really affected the players and Marco for this match. Now, do we know exactly what they knew heading into this match? No, we don't know. But what we do know is that there was a lot going on with Mitro in the press in the lead up to this match. And it was looking, if you were paying attention in the press, and the players see this, and the coach obviously see this, and the coaching staff, that it was looking like Mitro was going to leave. So I feel if you're human, it's going to affect losing someone as pivotal as Mitro has been to Fulham Football Club. How could it not be on your mind? That's just my opinion. These are professionals, so you're thinking that they can just move on and not really think about Mitro. But if it's me, I'm thinking about it. I've mentioned this before, but there was a Patriots game back in 2003 where the Patriots lost one of their leaders. They actually cut him. And guess what? That opening game was against the opponent that this player went to. And there's no question that it affected the players. The Patriots got blown out 31-0. In this match, Fulham lose 3-0. Now, could it be the exact same thing? I don't know, but I think it's only human nature to think about someone that you might be very close to leaving your club and what that means, and not being completely unaware of his situation. I would just feel that it had to have some kind of impact on this match. It's not an excuse, but it would be hard for me personally not to be thinking about Mitro if I was a player and be weighing on me in some way. Because, again, you're thinking, okay, well, now we have to win without him. What does this mean long term? All these thoughts would be going through my head. So I'm not saying that the players were, but I'm just throwing it out there that it could have. It could have. I think it would be hard for them not to be at least thinking about it. So I think that was a factor in this match. That's why that's my number 5. Let's go to number 4. And number 4 is this. We've seen Diop make a similar mistake like the one in this match before. I believe it was against Sunderland, where he did the exact same thing. So what's scary about this is that he does have, again, there's a little bit of a track record now, ability to make this one major mistake. Now, is it every match? No. Fulham had a player, center back by the name of Philippe Senderos, that seemed to have one of these mistakes a game. Diop doesn't seem to be that level of a player where he's making a mistake a game. But this is something that we're going to have to watch, because how will he bounce back from this? And I hope he does bounce back. I still believe in Issa Diop. But I just find it interesting that he's now made this same mistake twice. And hopefully he will learn from it, because Fulham cannot afford a player to be making this mistake on a regular basis. If he does it again, I would not be shocked if he's replaced. Okay, this is one time in a Premier League match. Let's hope it doesn't happen again. But I'm just going to throw it out there. We have seen this before. And hopefully Issa Diop will not make this mistake and learn from this bad mistake he made. It affected the entire game. Let's call what it is. It was probably a pretty even match up to this point, and then you have this situation. So I'm just going to say that I believe this is something that we're going to have to watch as Fulham supporters. Hopefully he learns from it. Okay, let's go to number 3. The red card and the penalty were harsh, in my opinion. So let's talk about the red card. And again, it's second yellow. And I watched this back several times, and I just think that this situation didn't deserve a penalty. I think the player's already going down. I'm not saying that he was simulating, but it looked like he was probably going down. I believe that there's minimal contact. This is an extremely harsh penalty to give and a second yellow to give, in my opinion. So for me, Fulham can look back at this and you can complain about it, but here's the situation. I believe the red card and the penalty were very harsh on Fulham, but it's part of the game, and these types of situations do seem to balance out over the course of the season. It's just unfortunate it was against Brentford, who were up 1-0 from a mistake, and this just destroys the game from this point on. Then it becomes the Newcastle United match from last season. It really does. At that point, you're basically throwing out the match. It's over at that point after they score the second goal. Third goal doesn't mean anything. But the red card and the penalty changed the match, and the match is lost at that point for Fulham. I know it. Everyone probably knew it at that point too. So that's the unfortunate part of this. But I do hope that Fulham get some of these calls going their way during the season. But I don't think that it was a yellow. I don't think it was a penalty. So it's just unfortunate that it happened, and we're just going to have to deal with it as Fulham supporters. But it does happen, and hopefully the calls even out as the season goes on. Okay. Number 2, and I think this one's a huge one. Paulinho not starting is a massive loss. Now, I talked about this in the preview episode where I was hoping Paulinho would start, maybe play 60 and then come off. The reverse I thought was always a gamble, because I think Paulinho is vital to everything that Fulham do. Fulham tick so much better with him in there. Everything flows off of Paulinho. It's not just his tackling. Everything works off of him. Without him in there, it really affects everything that they do. They were toothless. They, again, just were not the same team. He changes everything. So bringing him on the 68th minute after the red card and the penalty really does nothing. It doesn't show anything. I want to see Fulham with Paulinho starting, and then we can really judge. He's that important to how they play. So we can complain about how bad they played before Paulinho was in there, but I want to judge them when he's in there, because I think it's two completely different teams. We've seen this time and time again. They didn't play that great, the performance-wise, against Everton. They won without Paulinho, which is important. But I think we've learned how valuable he is. Without him in there, it just looks like a starting 11 just playing together, but not really functioning the way that they should be. With him in that starting 11, everything should look so much better and flow the way that we know a Marco Silva team will flow. So it was a huge loss for him not to start. And he might not have been good for 60 minutes, so that might be why he wasn't included. But it was a huge loss, and it's a factor in why Fulham lost this match, in my opinion. It is a factor. If you don't think so, then I don't know what you were watching last season. I don't know what more proof I have to say that they did not win one match when Paulinho was out last season. They did win one this season, which is great, but you don't want to be seeing that. This is why Fulham could not afford to sell him, cannot afford to sell João Paulinho. They don't have anyone that can do what he can do. And I think even though the opponents are much tougher coming up, I think him starting, which I believe and hope that he will make a huge difference against Arsenal, Tottenham, and Man City. They might get nothing from all three of these, but he will make a difference. I know it. I believe that. Okay. Coming up next to end the show, I'm going to give you my number one takeaway from Fulham's 3-0 loss to Brentford. Okay. To end this episode of Cottage Talk, I'm going to give you my number one takeaway from this 3-0 loss for Fulham against Brentford, and it is this. Fulham probably lose the match regardless of the penalty and the red card. I believe that that is true. I've kind of laid out why I believe that already by saying that Paulinho didn't start. You have the situation with Mitro not being there, potentially in the heads of the players. You have a very bad mistake. They were toothless. It all adds up to Fulham probably losing anyways. And that's not a good thing against an opponent that I'm telling you right now, they should be beating Brentford. They should not be losing to Brentford. I've watched Brentford play a bunch of times. They shouldn't be losing this match. They should be beating Brentford. But they didn't, and there are factors in there. But let's give credit to Brentford. They did enough to win the match. They deserve all 3 points. They were the better side. They deserve it. But if I'm being honest, there are factors that led to this 3-0 victory that were also besides Brentford. And I've laid them out. But I want to give Brentford the credit. They deserve the credit. They would have won anyways. They absolutely would have won this match anyways, even if Paulinho started. Fulham did not look at the races to beat a team that, again, I don't think is much better than them. They played better on this day. And they got some fortune to go along with it. Bad mistake, a questionable call, and a red card all adds up to a 3-0 victory for Brentford. So even without the red card and the penalty, I still think Brentford win because I couldn't see Fulham scoring a goal. So that's the problem there. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I am recording an episode tomorrow with a very special guest, and that will be released on September the 1st. You're going to want to listen to that episode. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. My name is Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the talkSPORT Fan Network.